those that are tuning in, blessed Sabbath. Today's title is Who Changed the Seventh Day to the First Day? Anybody know?
Constantine.
Okay.
321.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah. Satan.
I mean, of course, man, they like vessels, you know what I mean? But the spirit behind that individual is the one that, got them to actually gear towards going against the ordinances that God gave us. So what we're going to deal with, and it was going to be a lengthy class, but I didn't even know that. I don't be paying attention to the schedule. I need to do better about that, but I didn't know that Justin was teaching today. So, I had some little history excerpts in there and all, but, we're going to keep it short because I don't want to hold y'all to the seat too long, because I know me, I'll lose attention. Don't held to the seat too long. So we're going to keep it short, simple, but it's going to be understood as to, who came about with this change. We understand that, God didn't change it. But when you look at religious history, it'll seem as if like, they was ordained to do these things. You know what I mean? Like when you look at Catholicism, like the brother was saying, Constantine was the one who actually commissioned the Sabbath from being changed from the seventh day to the first day. The Council of Nicaea is when they actually went in and they had this council, and the Sabbath day was one of the days or one of the conversations that was talked about that, hey, let's make this change from God who gave it on the seventh day in the creation. God ordained this day on the seventh day in the very beginning. So how is it that, we can have a council or a meeting to say that, hey, we're going to make a change because we feel as if like it's more suitable towards us. But what we're going to do is we're going to get inside of the Bible and we're just going to put a stamp on, who came about with this idea. Was it God or was it the adversary? So let's open it up in Isaiah 34 because we got to put this disclaimer out here. That's what everybody who's, wanting to serve God, there's certain things that you must do, because God even said what we as, servants are supposed to do pertaining to his word. So let's pick it up at Isaiah 34 and verse 15. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
There shall the great owl make her nest and lay,
Go ahead.
and hatch and gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate.
So just like the birds, they have mates. You have a female bird, you have a male bird. They all have mates. Just like me, my wife is my mate, I'm her mate. But what it says in verse 16 though.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
So this is what we all must understand. Is that, if you ain't checking your teacher or if you ain't learned in the scriptures, then like, they'll pull a wool over your eyes. But God is clearly saying right here is what? Seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. Go ahead.
No one of these shall fail.
So none of these are going to fail. No prophecy. You know what I mean? The Sabbath day, being on the seventh day, that's not going to fail. Keep going.
None shall want her mate.
So even the Bible don't need a mate. So you got to realize, like the vultures, they need mates to make eggs or to produce babies. I need a mate to produce a seed. But when it's pertaining to the Bible doesn't need a mate. The Bible doesn't need, history documentations proving what's written in the Bible. Now we do that, because we as a people sometimes we like to be visual with things. But the Bible doesn't need a mate. The Bible doesn't need the Quran because the Quran is contrary. The Bible don't need, the book of the dead because that's contrary. It doesn't need a mate to back it up. Because from Genesis to Malachi is the Holy Scriptures. So within inside of the scriptures, it can confirm everything within itself. So even the book is saying what? Seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. This is what we must do. This is why it's a disclaimer. You know, because we got to read the word of God. But it's saying what? None shall want her mate. Go ahead.
For my mouth it have commanded,
Go ahead.
and his spirit it have gathered them.
So God's mouth has commanded. Let's go over here to 2 Timothy chapter 2 real quick. Let's go somewhere and back that up. That Isaiah 34. Because this is the issue. This is the issue why, we in here, we understand, when the Lord's Sabbath day. But the rest of the world don't understand it. And by the rest of the world not understanding it, now, everybody falls up under the head covering of Satan. That's what the rest of the world follow up under. So, check out what Paul wrote to Timothy in this 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
Study to show thyself approved unto God.
So study to show thyself approved. See, me, I got to study to show myself approved unto God. I'm not studying for my wife. You know what I mean? Like my wife, she got to study to show herself approved unto God. You see how that works? Like I understand, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 11, if I'm not mistaken, is that the man is the head covering of the woman. But at the same time, we both have a job to complete. And the job that we trying to complete is making it into the kingdom of God. How is that going to take place? You got to study to show yourself approved. Because like I said, nobody can pull the wool over your eyes. Nobody can come with, oh, you know what? Hey, tomorrow is the day of rest. Nah, that ain't what it said according to Genesis chapter 2. But that's the thing is that, like, if you're not readers, then you can always be conquered in the mind. Always. Like I tell my boys, man, you got to be thinkers. You can't let nobody think for you. You got to be thinkers, but at the same time, when you got the word of God in you, like, it's like a bright light that, nobody can take. Seriously, just because of the fact that, like, you're not allowing man to think for you, you're allowing God to think for you. But through his word, though. So we see is that what? The Lord just said through the mouth of Paul, writing a letter to Timothy, saying what? Study to show thyself approved. Go ahead.
Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed.
So needed not to be ashamed. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm studying this word so I can be approved unto God. What else it said?
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
And that's definitely what it has to be. Rightly dividing the word of truth. You know what I mean? Like, we can't come up here and give you a song and a dance. Nah, because what? We held accountable in the eyes of God. So what we got to do is, even standing up here in this position, we got to be studying. You know what I mean? So that we can be approved unto God, what? Rightly dividing the word of truth. So I had to put those disclaimers out there is because, look at the classroom, how we gathered in here. What we gathered with 10? Less than that. But tomorrow, man, that gate is broad. That's a broad gate. So this is, the misconception of the Bible is that tomorrow is the day of rest, according to man. But we understand is that today is the holy Sabbath day. Now, when you understand is that God didn't give us Saturday. You are not going to read nowhere in the Bible, Saturday is the Sabbath. What we're going to read is the Sabbath of rest. We're going to read the seventh day. So happily, from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, Sunday has always been the first day. So now, so happened today is Saturday. What day is that? The seventh day. So we're not saying that, Saturday is Sabbath. We're saying that the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, which so happens to fall on Saturday. So let's go over into this Revelation chapter 12, and let's look at the plot. Let's look at the plot as to, who changed it. Because, we can say Constantine, but nah, Constantine was a sun worshiper. You know what I mean? He worshiped the sun. They even follow the solar calendar. You know what I mean? So in other words, they are sun worshipers. But who gave him this idea? Let's look at it. Revelation chapter 12, and let's take a look at the beginning. See, we always look at Genesis being the beginning, but nah. This Revelation chapter 12 is before Genesis. This Revelation chapter 12 was before Adam and Eve was put on the earth. So we're going to look at what took place in heaven. Revelation chapter 12, and let's pick it up at verse 7. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
And there was war in heaven.
So there was a war in heaven. Go ahead.
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Go ahead.
And the dragon fought and his angels.
So you had Michael and his angels warring against Satan and his angels. Go ahead.
And prevailed not.
So they didn't win. We talking about Satan's angels. They didn't prevail. Keep reading.
Neither was their place found any more in heaven.
So they was kicked out of heaven. Verse 9.
And the great dragon was cast out. That old serpent
Go ahead.
called the devil and Satan.
So he has many names. You know, we see right here he's called the devil and Satan. In Greek, he's called what? Apollyon. In Hebrew, he's called Abaddon. But he has many names. Keep reading though.
Which deceiveth the whole world.
He deceived not just the state of Florida, or not just the state of Georgia, or California. Nah, it says he deceived the whole world. So even when you look at many other religions, like they all are tied in with Satan. You know. So we see is that even right here, we see is that what? It says he was cast to the earth and he deceived the whole world. Go ahead.
He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So he had little devils, or he had little angels. They was all cast out. So we see now is that what? Satan has now been cast to this earth. This ain't in your handout, but read verse 11 though.
And they overcame.
I'm sorry, verse 10.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation.
So now it's come salvation. So now I can clearly understand why Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2 had to take place. That's pertaining to salvation for mankind. It's because now, if this is the beginning, God them already knew, like, oh man, Satan down to the earth. So you know what we got to do? We got to come up with a plan to deliver man from death. That's when Jesus came on the scene. That's with that Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2 when it says, and let there be light. That's why we reading it right here saying what? And he heard a loud voice saying, now it's salvation. Go ahead.
And strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ.
Go ahead.
For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night.
So Satan going before God accusing you. That's what he doing. You know what I mean? He like going before God, hey man, you see what Justin doing? You know, or better yet, you see what Sister Claire and all, you see what they doing now? Like, you got to realize, like, what these angels that's, you know, they what, snitching angels. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we see is that what? The scriptures say that the accuser, which is Satan, going before God, accusing his brother. All right, let me go and try him, God. You know, let me see if I can actually get him to curse you before his face. Kind of like what took place with Job. But that ain't what we're here for, though. We see is that what? Revelation chapter 12 said that now Satan has been cast to this earth. So let's go and look at this Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. And let's look at, you know, the conversation, you know, what Satan put on the table pertaining to Eve. Because you got to realize, like, you know, that's why the scriptures say what? Thou should not bear false witness. Because you got to realize, like, words is just spirits. You know what I mean? So now, when these words are, you know, circulating through your thoughts, now guess what? These words don't ended up deceiving you. Now you feel as if like, okay, well, I guess Sunday is the Sabbath. You know, I guess that, you know, after God completed his creation, he set the first day as the day of rest. As backwards as that sound, I mean, that could become deception. Just like the brother was teaching about prosperity. You know what I mean? It's like, you supposed to come to church to get knowledge. That's why Israel Church of Jesus is called what? Bible school. Because you come into school to understand how to serve God. You're not coming to school to, learn how to be prosperous. You know what I mean? Nah, that's not what you coming to school for. You're coming to school to get understanding on how to live with yourself. So even pertaining to the Sabbath, we realizing is that, like, man, the Sabbath wasn't changed. So we just looking at the plan as to who came about changing it and what was the cause of the change. So let's look at Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made.
See, now God is the one that made the serpent. But it says he's more subtle, meaning he's more crafty, more wittier than any beast of the field. Keep reading.
And he said unto the woman, Yea, have God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden.
So, go ahead.
And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden.
Go ahead.
But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
So neither shall you touch it, lest you die. See, God had already gave simple instructions to this woman. But he didn't give it to her directly. He gave it to her husband. So her husband taught her up. Because look what she's talking. She's playing the same conversation back to Satan that her husband received from God. She wasn't even created at that point. She wasn't even taken from the rib of Adam at this point. So now, apparently she got the instructions from Adam. So it says what? Verse 3? That's where you at?
Mm-hmm.
It says, But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Verse 4.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die.
So ye shall not surely die. That's the accuser of our brother. Now a couple of scriptures ago, I just said that the snitching angels, the snitching angels would be the eyes of God. According to what? Zechariah chapter 1. But the accuser is Satan himself going before God. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there just to separate the two. But we see right here is that Satan telling Eve, like, what? You ain't gonna die. You just gonna know what? Verse 5.
For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
And that's true.
Yes, sir.
See, you got to realize, like, man, Satan will give you a little bit of lie, and he'll give you a little bit of truth. See, you got to realize what? According to Matthew chapter 7, a good tree can only bear good fruit. An evil tree can only bear evil fruit. So a good tree can't bear both. You know what I mean? They got some good grapes, and then they got some evil oranges. Like, no, it can't do that. It's all going to be either good or evil. So we see even right here, Satan gave Eve some truth. He said, yeah, for God do know that in the day you eat thereof, or in other words, you sit and you continue this conversation, then your eyes shall be open and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. What does it say in verse 6?
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food,
Go ahead.
that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat.
So I ate an apple on my drive drive down to Jacksonville. Like, after eating it, I didn't feel wise. I just felt, from the apple just doing its thing, as far as in what it eventually do later on this evening. That's being in the bathroom. But other than that, like, it didn't make me wise. It didn't teach me what 2 times 2 is. It was just a good tasting apple. But we see right here is that it says Eve. It says, and it was pleasant to her eyes and a tree to be desired to make her wise. So in other words, this isn't just some pomegranate tree or some apple tree. Nah, this is conversation. Because like I was saying earlier, is that thou shalt not bear false witness because you can deceive people. When you look at the whole world, they have been deceived according to Revelation chapter 12. But who did the deceiving? Satan. So now we even seeing, his deception playing out in this Genesis chapter 3. We seeing him actually going to work now because now what? He's back on this earth. So immediately he went to the garden of God with Adam and Eve. And he put in Eve's ear, guess what? You ain't going to die. You're just going to know how to be a God, understanding good and evil. So guess what she did? She took of the fruit thereof and did eat. It says, took the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and he did eat. Skip down to verse 11 and read that.
And he said, who told thee that thou was naked?
Exactly. So me eating an apple isn't going to tell me that, oh, you know what, I forgot to get dressed in the morning. You know what I mean? Like an apple ain't going to remind me of that. It was conversation, brothers and sisters. So that's why God said unto, Adam, and he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Go ahead.
Hast thou eaten of the tree, whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat?
And that's what he was doing. Let's go look at this tree again. Let's go over here to Hosea chapter 10. Let's see what this tree is. We see is that, some may think that is an actual apple tree, because, that's just from bad teaching, brothers and sisters. That's all that is, just bad teaching. We're not boasting. You know what I mean? Because me, I was up under that spell as well. But, the Lord called me from darkness unto light. Now I'm definitely blessed to be able to stand here and testify to that. But we all been taught that, Eve, she ate an apple. Nah, it wasn't an apple. Because we saw in verse 11, it seemed like it was some conversation because they knew they was naked. So let's pick it up at this Hosea chapter 10, and let's pick it up at verse 12. Because what we're looking at how deception got here on this earth. We seeing is that Constantine or the Pope, they didn't change the Sabbath. Yeah, they actually etched it in stone, but it was a spirit that got behind them. And we're going to see it. So we see is that what? Eve ate the fruit thereof and gave it to her husband. Now let's go and look at what this fruit is in Hosea chapter 10 and verse 12. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
Sow to yourselves in righteousness.
Go ahead.
Reap in mercy.
Keep reading.
Break up the fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you.
So we seeing is that, God is using agriculture or farming as an analogy to our righteousness.
Amen.
You know what I mean? It's like what he said, break up what? He said, sow to yourselves righteousness. So in other words, sow in the ground righteousness. Because he said what? Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you. But what did we do? Verse 13.
Ye have plowed wickedness.
So in other words, you plowed wickedness. You're supposed to sow righteousness, but guess what you did? You plowed in wickedness. Go ahead.
Ye have reaped iniquity.
You have reaped sin or iniquity. Keep reading.
Ye have eaten the fruit of life.
See, you don't eat bad information. That's why we see is what? In Isaiah 34, we saw is that what? You got to seek the Lord and read. And then even Paul said to Timothy, study to show thyself approved. If you learned in the scriptures, you're going to decide, or you can still decide to eat the fruit of life. But you'll have a good playing field to play on because you can navigate yourself through what's of man and what's of God. See, if you ain't learn, you're going to eat these lies. We see the whole world doing it. So it says what? It says, ye have eaten the fruit of lies. Go ahead.
Because thou didst trust in thy way.
Keep reading.
In the multitude of thy mighty men.
You see that? So we don't trust in our ways, but we ate the fruit of lies. Eve, she ate the fruit of lies. The whole world is eating lies. That's what the world is on right now, man. The world is upside down, man. Like, for real. The world is so upside down until, like, man, the Lord got to hurry to get back here. You know what I mean? Just because of how fast time is going. Like, time is speeding. So we can understand is that, man, the Lord is sitting on the throne soon for to jump off that thing. I ain't saying it's going to be next year, but it's soon, though. Because we can realize is that, man, the world is steeped in wickedness. Let's go a little bit further, though. Let's go over into this John. This John chapter 8. John chapter 8, because we see what Hosea just said, what? Man, you were supposed to sow righteousness, but in your sowing righteousness, you plowed wickedness. Why? It's because you ate conversation that was contrary to what thus say the Lord. Well, who gave you the conversation? Satan. He the one that destroyed the creation. Through what we saw in Genesis chapter 3. He actually destroyed the creation because what? Death been put on the table. But all this was done through the demise of Satan. So let's look at this John chapter 8 and verse 41. John chapter 8 and 41. When you get it, go ahead and read it, boss.
Ye do the deeds of your father.
Go ahead.
Then said they to him, We be not born in fornication. We have one Father, even God.
So even God is our Father. That's Jesus getting at the Pharisees. You know, and he like, man, you do the deed of your Father. Because, you know, they getting at Jesus as like, you know, Jesus of Satan. So they coming at him with, you know, all kind of father. And that's why Jesus said, you do the deeds of your Father. And now they like, well, hey, man, we're not born in fornication. You know, our Father is God. Well, what Jesus said in verse 42, though?
Jesus said unto them, If God were your Father, you would love me.
Go ahead.
For I proceed forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me.
So God is the one that sent me, the Father. So guess what? If God is your Father, then you will love me. You know, if I'm sitting here rebuking you, letting you know, is that like, nah, man, God didn't give you the first day. God gave you the seventh day. And you still rebuking that? Like, how can you say you are the Father? How can you say you even of God when I can go through the scriptures and show you and prove you that the seventh day is actually pointing to Jesus and his kingdom for 1,000 years? Like, if I can show you through the scriptures, like, how can you rebuke me? You can't. But we see even pertaining to Christ when he was on the earth, we see is that even the Pharisees handled him the same exact way. Like, how can you love me, but you say that, you know, I'm not the Son of God? So he said, what? If God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. What does it say in verse 43, though?
Why do ye not understand my speech?
Go ahead.
Even because ye cannot hear my words.
So you can't hear my words because you're spiritually deaf. That's what it is. Like, you don't comprehend my speech. When I'm clearly letting you know is that, hey, man, I proceeded forth from the Father. Why can't you hear my words? Because what he says, because it says, even because you cannot hear my words. Because you got to realize, like, your Father is not the one that sit on the throne. We're going to get to who their Father is. What does it say in verse 44?
Ye are of your father the devil.
So your father is the devil. Go ahead.
And the lust of your father ye will do.
He will do. Keep reading.
He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth.
Why didn't he abode not in the truth?
Because there is no truth in it.
See, there's no truth in him. See, he told Eve, guess what? You're going to know, you're going to become a God, and you're going to know the difference between good and evil. That's true. But there's also a line in the midst of that, because God said, the day you sit here and talk to this serpent, you're going to die. He said you're not going to surely die. But we see right here, Jesus know who this devil is. Jesus know his attributes. And one of them is he's a liar and a murderer from the beginning. But what else it say?
He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth,
Go ahead.
because there is no truth in him.
Keep reading.
When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own.
You see that? He's speaking of his own. Keep reading.
For he is a liar, and the father of it.
So he's the father of lies. That's what he is. We saw in Hosea that what? Eve ate this same conversation. She ate this same conversation pertaining to lies. So we see is that what? Satan is the father of it. He's the one that changed the Sabbath from the 7th day to the 1st day. He's the one. This is why when we say we gonna face Jerusalem and open up, this is why we said we don't say facing the east. We say Jerusalem. Because when you're gonna look at that Ezekiel chapter 8, what? It tells you that they was facing the east, worshiping the sun. Or they was facing the temple. They had their backs to the temple and they was worshiping the sun to the east. But even with that, like, you know, if I'm in Asia, like, I'm not considered east of Jerusalem. I'll be considered west. So this is, you know, just something outside the realm, just letting you know as to why we say facing Jerusalem, because that's what Solomon said. But we also see right here in this 44th verse, we see is that what? It says when he speak a lie, he speak his own. So it's kind of like, this is who he is. This is his makeup. This is he. Because he's the father of lies. What it say in verse 45? That's it on that. Let's go on. Let's run over into this Matthew chapter 7 real quick. It ain't in your handout, but let's check out what this Matthew chapter 7. How Jesus was making reference, you know what I mean, not to this John chapter 8, but just, you know, and showing, you know, how the world has been beat down by these lies that Satan has given. So let's look at this Matthew chapter 7, and let's look at verse 13. And when you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
Enter ye in at the straight gate.
Go ahead.
For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction.
So you got to realize is that tomorrow is a broad gate, brothers and sisters. Like, it's a broad gate. Like, I used to tell my son, every time we come to class, I'd be like, hey, dude, you can tell how many people ain't keeping the Sabbath. Just count cars. You know what I mean? You can add how many of us in the car, but you can count the cars. You can go to the doggone gas station, see who all getting gas. You can go to Walmart, see who all in Walmart shopping. You can go wherever throughout the whole world. You can go to the amusement parks. You can see that the whole world is not keeping the Sabbath because the whole world is going down that broad gate. But even tomorrow, when they go and have a gathering, what? After they gather, they go and spin. They go and buy dinner. They cook. They do everything that's contrary to what God told us not to do on the 7th day. So how can the first day be the Sabbath if you still can cook, if you still can lay with your wife, if you still can, you know, play fetch with your dog, if you can still go to amusement? How is that considered the Sabbath when you're not doing no rest? You're not doing any. So you got to realize is that, come on, man. That's a joke. You know, it's a joke because you're not learning. You're not reading the word of God. So what we doing is we seeing is that what Jesus said, broad is the gate that leads to destruction. What else he said, bro? You can start at the top. Yeah, Matthew chapter 7, verse 13.
Enter ye in at the straight gate.
Go ahead.
For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction.
Go ahead.
And many there be which go in thereat.
So many. Jesus ain't say just a few. He said many are going to go through that gate. But what he said in verse 14?
Because straight is the gate.
So this is the path that we on, brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Like I said, what? We got maybe less than 10 people in here. Or it might be that. But you got to realize, like, what? God gave this day on the 7th day in Genesis chapter 2. So we can read while we here. So that's why the gate is small. Or what it says, because straight is the gate, go ahead.
And narrow is the way.
And narrow is the way. This is why the way is so narrow, is because what? We read the word of God. We can read it for what it is. See, the whole world has been deceived and they eating the fruit of lies. Or better yet, they still eat from that tree that's in the garden of God, which was Satan. The whole world is still eating from that tree. That's because they're not readers. That's because they don't want to serve God. Now, eventually, it may get to that point in latter days, but what we're looking at right now, brothers and sisters, we just calling a spade a spade. That's practically it. So we see right here, Jesus said, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way. Go ahead.
And narrow is the way which leadeth unto life.
So this is what's going to lead you onto life. You got to stay on the straight and narrow path. But you got to realize what else to say.
And few there be that find
You
it.
see that? Many people ain't going to find this path. You know what I mean? That's why Satan has the whole world deceived. Many is not going to find this path. Because what? Many have been called, but few chosen. So we see is that Jesus said, straight is the gate. But keep reading though, because this is the reason why 14 says what it says. 13 says what it says. For how as the broad gate is what leads you to destruction, because of 15. What it say?
Beware of false prophets,
Go ahead.
which come to you in sheep's clothing,
Keep reading.
but inwardly they are ravening wolves.
And that's what the popes, that's their approach. Pope Francis, you know what I mean? Like how he kissed the feet of the sick. You know what I mean? How he come off as being so humble. You know what I mean? But yet, he just a raven and wolf inside. Because he giving you a doctrine contrary to what God is giving. You got to realize that what? The reason why they call Sunday is the Lord's Day is because they say that Jesus was resurrected on Sunday. That is particularly the reason why. During the Council of Nicene, they actually said, you know what? Christ, he rose on the first day of the week, so this is why we're going to make the change as to it being the Lord's Day because of their misunderstanding. See, this is why it's critical, for how the Bible is written, how Israel is to be on their job teaching the Word of God, is because you got to realize through periods and through the kingdom empire, right? And when I say the kingdom empire, I'm talking about how Ham had a moment to rule the world. You had Egypt, and then what the scripture says, the iniquity of the Assyrians have not yet been full, meaning they haven't reached their sin to the point where God cut them off. But that took place. And then when you look at the rule of Saul, Israel had their time to run. You had Saul, you had David, you had Solomon, and so forth, and then you had Ahab. This was all during the reign of Israel. But then after Israel dropped the ball, now we're in the times of the Gentiles. So now when you look at the Gentiles running it, like they don't flip the whole switch. Because it's like they don't got crafty with how they're going to beat you spiritually. We're going to take a look at that. But we see right here is that Jesus said, don't be deceived. And we see deception running rampant. So it says, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are raven and wolves. Let's go over into this Luke real quick. Let's go back to the course. Let's go over to Luke 21, and we're going to read one verse. Verse 24. Luke 21 and verse 24. And we're going to see, like I said, the statement that I was making pertaining to, the rules of the kings or, pertaining to the Bible. We see how it went from what? Ham and Nimrod and Now it went from Shem to Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then the kings that came out of Israel. But, we dropped the ball because we was committing whoredom. So God sent us into captivity, but he didn't cast us away. He just gave the rule to the Gentiles. So that's what we lie up under right now. So let's look at this Luke chapter 21 and verse 24. When you get it, you can go ahead and read it.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
Now we're talking about Israel going into captivity. Israel went into captivity. This took place in what? 70 AD. And Jerusalem was sacked. So now we see in verse 24, and what does it say now?
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
Go ahead.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
So they're going to be led away captive into all nations. Keep reading.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
So Jerusalem, you got to realize, like Titus was a Roman general. This is in history. So him being a Roman general, that classify him as a Gentile. So it says that what? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Go ahead.
Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
So until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The times of the Gentiles has not been fulfilled, brothers and sisters. But we on the door. Meaning like we got our hands on the doorknob, getting ready to open the door, going into the Lord's day of rest. We at that point right now. But we see is that what? The Gentiles, it says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Let's go over into this 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And let's pick it up at verse 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 20. You get it, bro? Go ahead and read it.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils.
Go ahead.
And not to God.
See, they sacrifice unto devils and not unto God. What else to say?
And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
Keep reading.
You cannot drink the cup of the Lord.
Keep going.
And the cup of devils.
So you can't be lukewarm. You can't be in between. You can't sit at the table of the Lord and at the table of the devil. No, you can't. You either got to be cold or hot. But in this matter, you either got to be rolling with the Lord. Because if you're against him, we already know the end for Satan. We already know. So now if you want to roll with Satan, y'all going to have the same end. So we see is that what? It says in verse 21, ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Go ahead.
Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils.
So in other words, you can't commune with that. But that's what the world has been doing. See, the world has been sleeping with the devil. That's what the world has been doing. The world has been eating from the table of the devil is because they give you Sunday as the Christian Sabbath. So we see is that what? Gentiles, they sacrifice unto devils. That's what the books say. But let's go over to this Daniel chapter 7. Let's look at the dynasty. Going back to the statement that I made pertaining to you had Ham running the world, then you had Shem running the world, and now you got Japheth running the world. These are all nations that came out of Noah. All nations that came out of Noah. So let's go look at Daniel chapter 7. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed.
Go ahead.
And he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter.
Keep reading.
Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and beheld, the four winds of the heavens strove up the great sea.
Verse
upon
3.
the great sea. And four beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
And we're going to see in Revelation that the sea is nothing but the people. That's what we're going to see. But it says what? And the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. So you know the first beast was the Babylonians. Then you had the Mede and the Persians. Then you had the Greek Empire. Now we are the Rome. And that's what we're going to deal with. So let's drop down to verse 7 and let's look at the fourth beast. Because the fourth beast was different from the other three. See, when you look at history, even pertaining to Nebuchadnezzar, I mean, like, what? He beat you down military. You know, we can read is that what? He told Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that, hey, if y'all don't bow down, I'm going to throw y'all in the fiery furnace. See, he kind of like forced he kind of like forced them into submission. You know what I mean? And they still didn't give in. They was like, well, go ahead and throw us in the fiery furnace. He said the same thing to Daniel. Daniel was like, all right, go ahead and throw me in the line with the dead. It's like he was forcing them to take his way of rule. But when we look at this fourth beast, man, they were slick, man. Like they were so slick that you would think all the time you serving Jesus when nah, you serving that other Jesus. All the while you think that, man, you know what? Shoot, I believe in Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what? The sinner's prayer, the brother taught a couple of Sabbaths ago. You know what I mean? Just confess and that's it. I ain't got to fix my behavior. I ain't got to do nothing. I can just confess and be good. Nah, that don't work. But it's working on the world through this fourth beast. Because this fourth beast, they didn't whoop you in submission. They just beat you spiritually. And you didn't know what you was eating until you got wind of it. And now it might be too late. Or it might be good for you because what? You don't came from under that spirit. So let's take a look at it. Verse 7. Go ahead and read it, bro.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible,
Go ahead.
and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns.
See, you got to realize it said what? It was diverse from all the beasts that was before it. So it wasn't like the Babylonian. It wasn't like the Mede and Persians or the Greek Empire. It was diverse. But it said what? And it had 10 horns. Skip down to read verse 8. Go ahead.
I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn,
Go ahead.
before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in the horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things.
So you had 10 horns, 3 of them was plucked up. You know, you look in history, you got the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, and the Uralites. These were all barbaric nations. You know what I mean? That was trying to take out Rome or start their own civilization within Rome. But nah, Rome warred against them and plucked them up. So now we down to 7. Skip down to verse 15 and read that. Go ahead.
Daniel was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body.
Go ahead.
Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body. And the visions of my head troubled me.
So Daniel just troubled about this vision. He troubled about the first beast, the second beast, the third beast, and even the fourth beast. He's just troubled about it. But what it say in verse 17? Verse 16.
I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this.
Go ahead.
So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the thing.
So he made Daniel know the interpretation. You know, this was an angel that gave Daniel the interpretation. What was the interpretation? Verse 17.
The great beasts, which are 4 kings.
So these 4 kings are 4 kingdoms. Go ahead.
Which shall arise out of the earth.
So they're going to rise out of the earth. Keep reading, verse 18.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever. even forever and
So,
ever.
so the saints of the Most High, what? We're going to take the kingdom eventually. But at this time right now, the fourth beast is going to rise up out of the earth. Verse 19, go ahead.
Then I would know the truth of the four beasts, which was diverse from all the others.
Go ahead.
Exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet.
Skip down to verse 23 and read that.
Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth.
And this is the kingdom that we up under, brothers and sisters. This is the last and final kingdom, which is the Roman kingdom. And it says what? Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. Go ahead.
Which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth,
Go ahead.
and shall tread it down and break it in pieces.
So it's going to devour the whole earth. You got to realize, like, man, the whole earth, the Catholic Church got like 1 billion followers. So guess what? That's like 1 billion people going to church on Sunday. That means that 1 billion people have been devoured. But not just that billion. You got millions that follow Islam. You got thousands that follow Hindu. So they've been devoured as well. Because you got to realize, like, Islam is just an off branch of Catholicism. That's all it is. When you look at the origin of it, what? They tell you that you're going off to heaven. They say the same thing that the mother harlot say. They tell you going off to heaven. That's what the Hindus say. They say when you die, you reincarnate. So they all playing the same song. So we see right here, it says that what? The fourth beast, it says, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. Verse 24, go ahead.
And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise.
So you got the 10 horns of 10 kingdoms. Keep going.
And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
Go ahead, verse 25.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
And that's what he's doing right now. He gave you Sunday as the Christian Sabbath. So it says what? He shall speak great words against the Most High. What else shall he do?
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High,
Keep reading.
and think to change times and laws.
So he's thinking to change times and laws. He's the one that gave you January as the new year. He's the one that gave you what? All these pagan days associated with the calendar. You got to realize he changed in the feast days. That's what it's talking about when it says times. And then when it's talking about laws, you ain't got to keep the Sabbath. You ain't got to keep the dietary law. You don't have to follow any of these things that God actually gave us according to the law. But it's saying what? It says, he shall speak great words against the Most High. You got to realize, like, Satan is using him as a vessel to get the whole world to go to hell. That's the whole scheme of all of this, brothers and sisters. So we see is that what? It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And to think to change times and laws. Go ahead.
And they shall be given into the hands unto the time and times and dividing of time.
So that's 3.5 years. We talking about doing the tribulation period. This is when he's going to rule the earth with an iron fist. But we seeing is that who we getting to just stamp the name on who changed it. Yeah, we see Satan is the one who's actually doing the deceiving, but who's he using to deceive the people? We're looking at Rome so far, but we're going to continue to put our finger on the stamp. Let's go over to Revelation 13. It'll be pretty clear if it ain't already, but it'll be real clear. We got one more place. Revelation chapter 13. Let's pick it up at verse 1. Revelation 13 and verse 1. You know, John and Daniel, they saying the same thing. You know, John the Revelator, he just going, whatever you didn't comprehend in Daniel chapter 7, He's going to make it plain for you right here in this chapter 13 in the book of Revelation. So Revelation chapter 13, let's pick it up at verse 1. Y'all got the fan on? Well, appreciate you. Revelation chapter 13, and let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it, boss.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea,
Go ahead.
having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now we're talking about the same conversation that we saw in Daniel chapter 7. So we see right now, it says, and I stood up on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Keep reading.
And upon his horns 10 crowns.
So you see that the 10 heads or the 10 horns are 10 kings, because they got 10 crowns. Keep going.
And upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
So we see is that what? He's speaking great words against the Most High. Upon these crowns is blasphemy. Why? It's because he's speaking great words against the Most High. He's changing times and laws. Keep reading though, verse 2.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
Go ahead.
And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority.
Now the dragon is Satan. We saw that in Revelation chapter 12. We see how Satan deceived the whole world. So now we seeing is what? Satan is the one that's actually giving the beast his power. That's what it says. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. What does it say in verse 3?
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death.
Go ahead.
And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
So all the world wondered after this beast. That's why Christmas is not just celebrated here in the Western world, you guys. Christmas is celebrated all over. You know what I mean? Like even you got those that don't even believe in Christ celebrate Christmas. They just call it something else. But like the saying is, shoot, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So you know what I mean? Like, all right, hey, I don't call it Christmas, but I still bring a tree in my house and deck it with silver and gold. Come on, man, stop playing. So we see is that what? It says that the whole world wondered after the beast. What else is saying, verse 4?
And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast.
Go ahead.
And they worshipped the beast, saying, who was like unto the beast, who was able to make war with him.
So who's able to make war with him? Because we saw is that what? He's going to be whooping on the saints of the Most High. We saw that in Daniel chapter 7. So now we see right here in Revelation chapter 13, it's saying what? Who is able to make war with him? What is it in verse 5?
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies.
Go ahead.
And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
They go that 3.5 years again. So we see is that during this period, man, he's going to be whooping the saints of the Most High if you're not in the wilderness. But we coming here is to still pinpoint on this nation who actually gave you the first day as the Christians have. So we see is that what? In verse 5 it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy for 42 months. What does it say in verse 6?
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God.
So he blasphemed against God. What else?
To blaspheme his name.
Go ahead.
And his tabernacle. And them that dwell in heaven.
Everything about God, he blasphemed because he considered himself to be God. You know, I had a little information pertaining to his name, 666, Vicarious Filling Die. You know what I mean? That means vicar of Christ. That means now he's the Christ on this earth. Like that's what he called himself. He wears that on his little hat that he wears. You know what I mean? Like if you pay attention to it, you'll be able to put the puzzles together. You'll realize who's actually, you know, running for Satan or campaigning for Satan as, you know, ruling this whole earth. You'll see it if you pay attention to it. But the whole world is asleep spiritually. So we see right here, we see is that he blaspheming everything that's of God. What is it in verse 7 though?
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints
Go ahead.
and to overcome them.
Keep reading.
And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
So he was given power over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. You see how perfect the Bible is? Like, we ain't even have to come to Revelations just to see Revelations, because we already saw it pertaining to Daniel. Like, Daniel had already spoken this, but all John is doing is just clearing your understanding. So we see is right here is that he's given power over the whole earth. But he's going to wear out the saints of the Most High. What does it say in verse 8, though?
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
You see that? So you got to realize, like, man, if they worshiping this beast, hey, his name won't ring in the book. You know what I mean? Like, when you see that the whole world would be gathered tomorrow for mass or for church or whatever they want to call it, like, you can actually pinpoint that they name, so far, it seems that they're not written in the book of the Lamb. Like, it's just that easy to, like, pinpoint. That's why, you know, Paul is saying, like, simplicity is in Christ. Like, it ain't no secret on who ain't going to serve God and who will. It ain't a secret. So we see right here is that it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. So if you worshiping this beast, if you feel as if like tomorrow is the Sabbath of rest, like your name ain't found written in the book of the life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Skip down to verse 11 and read that.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth.
Go ahead.
And he had two horns like a lamb.
Keep
And
reading.
he spoke as a dragon.
He spoke as a dragon. So he got horns like a lamb. He trying to come like Christ. So it says in what? Horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. So he trying to look stout, or he trying to come off as like what we saw in Matthew chapter 7. He trying to come off as a sheep. You know what I mean? But inwardly he's a raven and wolf. So you know his covering is like a sheep. So that's why it says what? He got horns like a lamb, and he speaking as a dragon. Because he blaspheming the Most High. What does it say in verse 12?
And he exerciseth all power of the first beast before him.
Go ahead.
And causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast,
Keep going.
whose deadly wound was healed.
So we see is that the beginning of this Revelation chapter 13, we're looking at the empire as a nation. Now we seeing a particular individual coming out of the empire to be representative. And that's what we're looking at now in the 12th verse. So that's why it says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose wound was healed. What does it say in verse 13?
And he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven
Go ahead.
on the earth in the sight of men,
Keep reading.
and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by
You see that? He deceiving those that dwell on this earth. But keep going.
by the means of those miracles
Go ahead.
which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live.
Keep going. Verse 15.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
So that took place even in the days of Daniel. That's going to take place in our times, you guys. You got to realize that, man, if you're not girded with this word, like, you're going to fall victim to this. You know what I mean? Like God said, the only way you can please him is through faith. So if your faith meter ain't all the way up, like, you might be victim to this. So we see is that what? He going to have an image to walk and talk. And if you don't bow down to this image, he said he's going to kill you. But what does it say in verse 16?
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead.
And I witnessed this, brothers and sisters. This take place at mosques, you know, pertaining to the Catholic Church or the university. I witnessed this, and I actually was in mosques while Ash Wednesday took place. This is an event that takes place on Ash Wednesday. They just prepping you up. You know, they putting the mark, what, in your right hand and in your forehead. And that's what they do on Ash Wednesday. They put a cross in your right hand and a cross on your forehead. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. They didn't put it on me or my kids. But what I'm saying is, these things are actually taking you. These things are actually running its course. You got to realize, like, the Bible is true. And the way how you can prove that it's true, you know, doing a little bit of research here and there. But they already practicing it. They already practicing or prepping people up to okaying with taking this mark. So it says what? And he calls all, both small and great, rich and poor. So every man, free and bond, they're going to take this mark in their right hand and in their forehead. What does it say in verse 17?
And no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name.
So the number of his name. But the only way you can buy and sell, the only way you can, at this point, go to church and not be killed is you got to follow under the mark of the beast. Now you got to realize, like, there's the laws out there called the blue laws. That's like right now. You could Google on your phone and you can pull up blue laws. Blue laws are actually on the books. And these are laws that's kept throughout certain parts of Europe. But before we came to this Western world, you couldn't buy or sell on the first day of the week. Like, you couldn't do it. It was law. You see a little bit of it being exercised here in America where they don't have certain sales on Sundays, certain stores are closed on Sundays. But that all was stretched from the blue laws that Rome actually set up at the Council of Nicaea when Constantine said, hey, you know what? Y'all gonna shut down on Sunday, but y'all can go inform y'all land. Y'all can go till the earth. You know, but everything else is gonna be shut down. That was an arm stretch from that era all the way into our time. So we see is that the only way, though, like, you got to realize, like, man, at this time, this is during the period of the tribulation. And if you caught up in it, like, your faith is truly going to be tried. You ain't going to be keeping the Sabbath as a holy convocation. You might be keeping it on the low. But as far as in we doing like we doing right here, we got a little bit of liberty right now. We can come to church as we please. We can keep the feast days as we please. But it's going to get at a point where, like, we're going to probably be calling each other up. Hey, man, you see them people, they're waiting at the church for us to come. You know, we still going to go. We're going to, you know, seek courses to actually hide out or whatever the case may be. But it's going to get to that point. And you got to realize the only way you're going to be able to keep Sunday as church, you're going to already be up under the spirit of Satan. Because you're going to have the mark on your right hand and the mark on the forehead. So now we getting at this man. Because it says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that have the mark of the beast or the number of his name. Let's look at the name. What does it say in verse 18?
Here is wisdom.
Here is wisdom. Pay attention, you guys. Go ahead.
Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast.
So let him that have understanding count the number of the beast. What's his number, bro?
For it is the number of a man.
Go ahead.
And his number is 666.
So we see that the number of this man is 666. But this is the number of a man. This is the man who Satan is using right now to deceive you spiritually. Giving you the Christian Sabbath as the first day, when we know that's contrary to God. We know God didn't deal with that. We know that man gave that tradition. Let's go a little bit further. Let's go over here to 2 Thessalonians. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We got 2 more places. Let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
For yourselves, brethren.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I think it was first. Go ahead.
Verse 1.
Yes, sir.
Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him,
Go ahead.
ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by the word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand.
So the day of Christ is at hand, brothers and sisters. So don't be soon shaken in mind. Certain things got to take place. You know what I mean? Like, nah, Christ ain't gonna return next week because certain things has not taken place. So Paul is letting you know is that, like, don't be shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter from us. We ain't gonna give you that. So don't be troubled, because understand now, the day of Christ is at hand. What he said in verse 3 though.
Let no man deceive you
Go ahead.
by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first.
And a falling away has already been occurred. You know, people falling away from the scriptures. You got to realize they've fallen away because they all been deceived by Satan. So now when you see is that this has to take place. Not just this, but along with many other things. But we see is that one of the agendas, you have to have a falling away first. And we know that's going on at a rampant. But keep reading though.
And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
So the son of perdition or the son of destruction has to be revealed. What is it in verse 4?
Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God,
Go ahead.
or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
So he's showing himself that he God. That's why he tried to come off as this humble person, trying to carry himself like Christ. That's who his whole image tries to pertain. But he's contrary to Christ, because he changed the Lord of the Sabbath from the seventh day to the first day. He changed it. He changed the holy days to holidays. He changed all of that. So that's why it says what? In verse 4, it says, who oppose and exalt himself above all that is called God. So he exalts himself above all. What it say in verse 5 though?
Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things.
So I told you these things. Don't act like this is something new. I had already told you this. What it say in verse 6?
And now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time.
Go ahead.
For the mystery of iniquity doth already work.
So the mystery of iniquity is already working, you guys. That's already going on right now. That's already in the making. It's been going on. So we see that the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Go ahead.
Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way.
Verse 8.
And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth,
Go ahead.
and shall destroy with the brightness of his
So at the coming of the Lord, like, he's going to destroy. That's why they're going to beat Satan to the lake of fire. You know, when you're going to look at that Isaiah chapter 66, you're going to already have the beast and the false prophet in the lake of fire before Satan. So when the Lord returns, he's going to destroy them with the brightness of his coming. What is that in verse 9?
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan.
You see that? His working is after Satan. We saw in what? Revelation chapter, 13? We saw that this man was going to be speaking great words against the Most High. The great words that he's speaking of, the blasphemy that he's doing against God. He's saying, hey, man, Adam and Eve, that story was a fairy tale. Like Pope Francis said this. You know, he said Adam, it was a fairy tale. A lot of stuff is, you know, allegory. When you look at Genesis and Exodus, it's allegory, meaning it's symbolism or it's parables. So in other words, like, he already, you know, speaking great words against the Most High, but guess what? He's after the working of Satan. Go ahead. Verse 9.
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders.
You see that? We saw that in John chapter 8, man, is that Satan is the father of lies. So now this same individual has been eating the fruit of lies. Now, I don't know if this Pope right here is the Pope that's actually going to fulfill all of this. But we know is that they come out of the papacy. So we see is that what? With all power and signs and lying wonders. What is it in verse 10 though?
And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish,
Go ahead.
because they receive not the love of the truth.
You see that? This is why they perish. This is why that gate that's broad tomorrow, they gonna perish is because they didn't want to receive the truth. They cool with the tradition. They cool with the lifestyle that Satan is giving them. So this is why they all shall perish, because it says, because they receive not the love of the truth. What else?
That they might be saved.
You see that? Like the word of God can save, brothers and sisters. It saves, but if you don't want to receive the love of the truth, then you're going to be deceived to your own damnation. But what is it in verse 11 though, bro?
And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie.
You see that? Now God putting his mix in. All right, you want to roll with Satan? I'm going to give it to you in HD. I'm going to give it to you all the way live. You know what I mean? Because he sent them strong delusions. That's what he did. He gave you a delusion thinking that it's okay for me all of a sudden to want to be with another man. Not me per se, but that's just what's going on in this culture of saying that, you know, same-sex marriage is okay. Nah, that's a delusion that God has given you. He's giving you over to a reprobate mind. But if you want to believe a lie, you know, a little leaven the whole lump. You know what I mean? So now you out here drag queen. You know, that's what's going on. But it's through the delusion because you wanted to believe a lie. What is it in verse 12?
That they all might be damned to believe not the truth.
You see that? It says they all might be damned because they didn't believe not the truth. Go ahead.
But had pleasure in unrighteousness.
So they had pleasure. They didn't have no pleasure. That's what they wanted. They wanted unrighteousness. Let's go to Revelation chapter 17.
Please, bro.
Revelation chapter 17. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Now let's look at the mystery. Because we see in what? In that Thessalonians, we saw is that what? The mystery of iniquity doeth already work. That means the mystery of iniquity is wrong. They already in the works. They already doing their job. Their job is to deceive the whole world. And they doing a great job at it so far. So we see is that this revelation is going, you know, put everything in its perspective. So let's pick it up at Revelation chapter 17. And let's pick it up at verse 5. When you get it, go ahead and read it. I'm sorry, Revelation 17 and verse 1. My bad. Go ahead.
And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
And the waters, like I said, are the people. But now we finna show the judgment of the great whore, which is the Catholic Church. What it says in verse 2.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication.
Go ahead.
And in the inhabitations of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So they've been made drunk with this doctrine. You know what I mean? Saying that, yeah, we changing the Lord's Sabbath to the first day. That's a doctrine from the Mother Church. So we see is that it says what? It says, and the kingdoms of the earth. You know what I mean? Like you got presidents. You got the president before this president, Obama. You know what I mean? He was cool with the same-sex marriage law. So he was drinking of the same fornication. You know what I mean? You got, you know, sultans. You got emperors. Like they all drinking this wine of fornication. Like when you look at the Pope now, right? The only Pope who ever did it in history. He brought all the heads of all religions into the cathedral. And they all had prayer service. Like you can Google this. You can Google this information. He brought every last religious leader over the Orthodox Muslims Even Judaism, they was there. But yet they despised the Pope. But they there. That's why it's called the what? The universal prayer. They all came together. So you got to realize that, man, this dude is deep in deception. So we see is that what? It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk spiritually. But what does it say in verse 3 though?
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now this woman is wrong. She's sitting up on the beast, which is Satan. So it says what? And I saw a woman sitting up on a scarlet colored beast, full of names and blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. What does it say in verse 4?
And the woman was arrayed in purple,
Go ahead.
scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
So full of abominations, full of false doctrine. You saw in the scriptures how she was blaspheming against God. Everything that's of God, blaspheming. So it says what? She had a cup, a golden cup, full of abominations. But what does it say in verse 5?
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
Now she's called Mystery Babylon because nobody don't know that rule is running it. Nobody don't figure that Rome is the one that's running this world. Spiritually. That's why the Pope is considered to be the king. Because every time they go visit the Pope, what they do? Bow down and kiss the ring. They bow down to the king. Nobody don't really be peeping that. So we see is that even she is considered a mystery because she took on after Nebuchadnezzar. She took up on after Darius the Mede, Cyrus the Persian. She took up on after Alexander the Great. And then after Alexander the Great, his 4 generals ruled. She took on after all of that. And now she gives us the Christian Sabbath, which is Sunday. So you got to realize, like, if you're going down that broad gate, man, you're going to be consumed with the brightness of the coming of the Lord when he returns. You're going to be consumed with that. But we see is that way. Upon her forehead, a name was written, Mystery to Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots, the abominations of the earth. So she's the mother of all churches. I used to think that, shoot, all right, I ain't gonna let you put no cross on my forehead on my right hand in the Catholic Church, but I call myself Baptist. Like, she the mother of the Baptist Church. She the mother of Pentecostal. She's the mother of Methodist. Whatever you want to think of, United in Christ, any of that. She's the mother of it. Catholicism, Islam, she's the mother of it. So you got to realize it says she's a mystery because, like I said, don't nobody know that Rome is whooping the world down with the doctrine that everybody is eating. Nobody don't see that, so that's why it's a mystery. What else is said in verse 6 though? I'm sorry, skip down to verse 7 and read that.
And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel?
So why are you marveling? Like, don't be surprised. Why?
I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her.
Go ahead.
Which have the 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now pay attention to the next verse. See, all these are facts that we can all just Google. And it could pinpoint us to who's behind all of this. Check out this 9th verse. Read that.
And here is the mind which have wisdom.
So check out this wisdom. Go ahead.
The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
It's only one location. I Googled it. They come up with other locations, but history only talks about the Vatican sitting on 7 hills. See, it's called 7 mountains right here, but it's referring to the Vatican. You can pinpoint it. Letting you know is that, okay, all the while the system had talking about Rome? Yeah, because the Pope, the only one who walk around with that funny looking hat, with 666 are written in Latin, Vicarius Filii Dei, and then you only have the Vatican that sit on 7 mountains or 7 hills. That's what they said. But then when you pay attention to their conversation, like they blaspheming the Most High. You know, they accept and gaze in the Catholic Church now. You know what I mean? Like this is the humble spiel that this Pope is trying to give, and that's why everybody enjoys this Pope. You know, he's so different or so diverse from all the other popes that came. But there's only one location that this is referring to that sit on 7 mountains. Yeah, you see other little small towns that sit on 7 mountains. But nah, it's talking about Rome. So this is the wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Let's go over to the last place. Let's go over here to 1 John chapter 5. Let's look at, you know, the number that this woman did to the world. You know, she did a good number on the world, man, because like how I always say, man, this room should be packed. You know, like the whole hotel, they should be in this room right here. Standing up, packed on each other, doors packed all out to the... They supposed to be gathered in here, but you know what? They all ate the fruit of lies. You know what I mean? So by them eating the fruit of lies, they up under Satan's head cover. So, you know, he ain't trying to tempt them. They under his control. Let's look at what the book said about the world. Let's pick it up at 1 John chapter 5. And let's pick it up at 17. We ain't got it on the handout, but we'll read verse 17. Go ahead and read it, bro.
All unrighteousness is sin.
Go ahead.
And there is a sin not unto death.
So there is a sin that's not unto death. That could be you trying to steal to feed your family. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't got no money, you ain't got no food in your bread. You need to feed your kids, and you decide to go steal some food. Like, you're trying to feed your family, so that ain't sin unto death. Now, you might have to repay the food, you know what I mean? But that's not the sin that's unto death, is what John is referring to. There's many more that are sin that's unto death. But what we see in the beginning of the 17th verse is still unrighteousness. But what does it say in verse 18 though?
We know that whosoever is born of God sinneth not.
So we born of God. Why? We gather here on the Lord's Sabbath day, which is the 7th day. So we know we are of God. You know, we don't partake in Christmas. We don't partake in January being the new year, because we know that the new year was like in the latter part of March. You know, so we understand that we born of God because we went up under the blood, washed away those past sins. Now we're a new baby. So it says what? It says we know that whosoever is born of God sin not. Keep reading.
But he that is begotten of God keepeth himself, and that wicked one toucheth him not.
So that wicked one, we talking about Satan. So it's like what? It says that, and it says that, but he that is begotten of God, meaning born of God, keep himself. So in other words, you're going to keep yourself falling in situations that can get you to sin against God. That's you keeping yourself from that wicked one. Understanding is that, man, Sunday is a lie. That Satan gave the whole world. Now the whole world is hypnotized by his spirit. We know that. So we see is that the wicked one is touching the whole world. But what we trying to do is we trying to maintain our integrity by not allowing the wicked one to touch us spiritually. But check out what he said in the 19th verse, though. Go ahead.
We know that we are of God.
So now with all this being said, we know that we are of God. But what else he said?
And the whole world lieth in wickedness.
See, the whole world, not just a partial of it, the whole world. Because we saw in Revelation chapter 12, we saw how Satan, when he was cast to this earth, he deceived the whole world. Well, guess what, you guys? The whole world is still in deception. The whole world is still steeped in paganism, contrary to what we can read. So we see throughout the course of this class, I pray somebody got some understandings that who changed the 7th day to the first day, we see wrong. But the one who was behind the scene orchestrating it all the second is the one that actually had the blueprint to the plan being changed so that you could be destroyed if you follow his customs. So again, who changed the 7th day to the first day? I pray somebody got some understanding. I thank you for your time in Jesus' name. Peace. All right, so we'll have announcements, and then
Our prayer is that the eyes of your understanding were enlightened by today's lesson. DVDs and CDs of the lesson are available. Please place your order in the offering box along with your donation and pick up your DVD or CD up at the podium next Saturday. Please tune into Thy Kingdom Come television program, which airs in various locations. Also join us for question and answer Bible study in about an hour from now, and every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via live stream and or teleconference at 860-970-0010. Access code 343-531-334#. If you feel you are ready to be baptized, please sign the baptismal list at the podium or speak with Brother Tony or Brother Anthony. On the first Sunday of every month, we broadcast the Bible in plain view. This broadcast gives brothers an opportunity to read and or teach a short 30-minute class. If you are interested in helping, please let us know. The following is the dress code for our services. All clothing should be modest in appearance. Nothing tight-fitting, overly baggy, sagging, or revealing should be worn. Men are to remove hats and all head coverings, and women should wear a head covering, such as a hat or scarf, according to 1 Corinthians 11, verses 1 through 7. If a young child becomes noisy during the lesson, distracting other members, please remove him or her to the other room next door. Any tithes and or free will offerings should be put in an offering envelope and placed in the offering box near the pole. Pray for our strength as we pray for you into next Sabbath. Peace.
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 All right, so the next feast day will be Pentecost. And I think of course, at the end of last day of unleavened bread is the Sabbath after tomorrow. So the count starts after the last day of Feast of Unleavened Bread. And right now, I don't know how many days we got till. I mean, I can pull it, but I just want to give y'all an update or a heads up to let y'all know that the next feast will be Pentecost. I don't know. I know I sent it to Julius, so Julius got the list. I know Tony got the list. Gerard, you got the list?
Yeah, I think we good.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, you got a little.
If you sent that text, yeah, we got. I just got a.
Okay, yeah, you got a little time, and it falls on the weekend as well. Pentecost always falls on Sunday. That's the only feast day that is always gonna fall on Sunday. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you got a little bit of time, but you know, definitely we be praying for one another. You know what I mean? Because I mean, shoot, it's getting ugly, man. You know, but I mean, prayer, man, is always helpful. You know, especially in these troubled times. You know, yeah, prayer. Yeah. Prayer is always helpful in these times, man. So you definitely want to just make sure we keep each other in prayer. Pray for my family. We'll be praying for y'all. You know, if nobody ain't got anything, we're gonna close out. If nobody don't have anything. Now, as far as with the announcements about DVDs and CDs, you can actually go to YouTube. You know, if you want to actually look back at the lessons, or if you want to get DVDs, you know, I could talk to Josh, or you know, Nate. I think it'll be more so Josh because he's down here on this end on how to deal with it. You know, since you guys are here in Jacksonville, if you want DVDs for yourself, you know, we can try to make that happen. And not just for this location. If you want DVDs of Israel Church of Jesus, where Elijah and Gary or wherever, like they actually have a committee where they make the DVDs and send them out. You know what I mean? They usually, I mean, if you request them, they'll send you. So if you want DVDs, you know, if you want to take advantage of it, it's definitely there for you guys. You know, so if there's nothing no one has, you know, we got Brother Anthony and his wife in the building. You know what I mean? So, you know, they vacationing. Yeah, I put them out through YouTube. Yeah, so, you know, it's definitely good to have, you know, brethren in the building. So, but other than that, we face Jerusalem and close out. And we'll be back for 30 minutes for Q&A.
Our Father which art in heaven.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy will be done in earth.
thy will be done on earth
As it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread,
And forgive us our debts.
and forgive us our debts,
As we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation,
But deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
Thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom,
And the power.
and the power,
And the glory.
and the glory,
Forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
For he is good.
For he is good,
His mercy endures forever.
and his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of
For
Israel.
he is good.
For he is good,
And his mercy endures forever.
and his mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
The Holy One of Israel.
The Holy One of Israel,
The King of Kings.
the King of kings,
And the Lord of Lords.
and Lord of lords,
The one true God.
the one true God,
And there is no other.
and there is no other.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
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 In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Well, I'm so hungry. Why? Oh, you stopped eating food.
Ain't no crab.
Man,